All right, today's topic is for any Christian who finds himself or herself in a situation where you don't really agree with God's perspective. You don't really agree with his opinion. The question is, what if I don't agree with God's opinion? Now, God's opinion is also known as the truth. So, full disclosure, I believe that God's word speaks very clearly on some issues. And so, if the issue that you have in mind is one where God speaks very clearly, then another way of thinking of this question is that really you're talking about sin, right? Because if God's opinion is truth and you don't agree with it, that's the very definition of sin, is you want to go in your own way. You want to do your own thing instead of God's thing. So here are 3 humble suggestions. First of all, if you find yourself in this position, and many people do throughout their life, be careful who you listen to. It says this in Proverbs: walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. So just realize that there's a tendency when you want to do your own thing instead of God's thing, there's a tendency to surround yourself with people who agree with your perspective instead of God's perspective. Number 2, try to be brutally honest with yourself. It's really easy to look in the mirror in these kinds of situations and lie to yourself, right? You surround yourself with the people that are saying what you want to hear, and then you tell yourself that, that it's okay. What you're doing is okay. David in Psalm 139 said this: search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. This is a great prayer to always be praying. But the truth is, if you are in a position where you don't agree with God's opinion, then you really don't want to pray this prayer, because you don't want God to point out anything that offends him. Here's the last humble suggestion for you. Be ready to take ownership, because the reality is you'll reap what you sow. And so you might ignore all of the counsel of the people in your world that are trying to help you and speak life into your situation. And so if you're really going to ignore them, at the end of the day, just be ready to take ownership when it doesn't go well. Paul says this in Galatians 6, don't be misled. You cannot mock the justice of God. You'll always harvest what you plant, or you'll reap what you sow. Those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature, but those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from that same Spirit. The truth is, you're not the first one to disagree with God's opinion. It's been happening for 2,000 years. In fact, the context of this very passage, Galatians 6, is fitting. Earlier in the chapter, Paul is speaking to the people who are trying to help other people make good choices. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. So just keep this in mind. If you're watching this video, maybe you're even watching it because of a mentor in your life who is trying to help you to do the right thing. I hope they're being humble and gentle. I hope they're trying to help you get on the right path. But at the end of the day, it's your decision whether you are going to honor God with your life or whether you're going to choose to follow your own feelings and opinions.